Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about AMC's plan to beat the shorts, the apes winning, how brokers are liquidating, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. Now, the attention is still obviously on AMC's proposal, but talking about this, we have to look at some of the stuff in the past. You can see, remember, our CEO is executing brilliantly. Just look at the success already with his AMC Go plan. It's a no-brainer, vote yes on proposal 5. So there's obviously been a lot of talk on the proposal, one of which to talk about the dilution of shares in terms of, firstly, the authorized shares going from 550 million to 1.1 billion, and then the issuance of around 60 million shares. And we talked about this. The authorization does not equal to the issuance. There are two different things. But it's about talking how AMC has had the ability to go on their words and obviously operate what they have said. We've seen with their Go plan in terms of how AMC wanted to grow, how AMC wanted to restructure their debt, how they wanted to tackle some problems, and that's exactly what we've seen from them. And so one thing I want to say, and this isn't me telling you to vote yes or to vote no. As always, it should be always up to you to make those decisions, but it's about talking how AMC has always made decisions based on the interest of the company, which then in terms benefits the investors, aka the apes. And so that's why when we see these proposals, and we have to remember, last time when we saw AMC have a proposal like this, it was rejected and people regretted to vote no, and we have this opportunity again. So obviously think carefully, do your own due diligence. And you also have to remember there are multiple other factors to this as well. It's very simple. Yes brings you to 1.5% interest in a year. The box office is supposed to break 10 billion. That would be profits for all AMC all year. 2027 is supposed to be even bigger. And so this is what you have to remember in terms of how AMC is able to put themselves really on the map. We've already seen how AMC has restructured their debt. We've seen how they've been increasing their revenue. Now, one of the biggest talk that people have said, and these are for apes as well, who obviously supports AMC, and one of the problems and things that they've highlighted was, of course, AMC's profitability issues. And so if that is your concern, what we're looking at is how this proposal is bringing AMC towards that goal. And not only that, multiple people have said, when AMC is able to make profits and very well in their profitability, there are so many different options they can do. Now, we've already talked about this in terms of the investments that they can make, whether it's with other stock investments like HYMC, whether it's investments in the infrastructure, so more cinemas, better screens, better chairs, etc., or if it's to do things with dividends. And in this case, we know how much a dividend would obviously break the short. So this is why we've said a lot of things to look out for. And you can see this is a huge saving of millions of dollars. And you have to remember is that CEO Adam is the largest shareholder of AMC and receives his salary in the form of stock instead of cash. And so at times like this, where his biggest incentive is for the price to go up in terms of AMC, he will obviously make the decisions that benefits that. And so this is what we have to understand when we see whether it's Adam Aron or whether it's AMC as a whole making these decisions. I personally would never think that a company or the CEO will make a decision on purpose that they think it's bad to destroy the company. And in the past, we've seen throughout, Adam Aron has made decisions that have benefited AMC greatly. And we've seen how he's obviously saved AMC from bankruptcy, steered and navigated through every turmoil that we faced, and landed us where we are right now, where we are still doing extremely well. And so this is what we have to understand. And you can even see in the history again in the past, 5 days prior to the ape conversion, CEO Adam posted ample warnings to AMC investors about the upcoming drop. Now he posts about winning. Why could that be? By the way, A celebrates his 10th anniversary as AMC CEO by end of year. He has a tradition to go out a winner after 10 years as CEO. So let's talk about this. Firstly, it's about, we know that Adam Aron is obviously very keen to dropping hints. And what we've seen is him hinting about AMC winning. And in terms, that will be APES winning as well. Now, it's no surprise that AMC will win, because if this goes well, if AMC is able to raise the money, which pays off debt, which makes more investments, which issues out dividends, then you will understand how powerful AMC will be. Now, one of the biggest problems that people have is, of course, with if AMC were to issue all 550 million new shares, because they've asked for the authorization shares to go up to 1.1, so an additional 550 million that they could technically issue out. So people are worried that if AMC were to issue out 550 million more shares, that would save the short. However, the thing that I want to talk about here is, if you are investing in AMC with the sake of a squeeze, you would also be understanding that there are billions and billions of synthetic shares out there. Now, if you're not invested for a squeeze and you don't believe in this whole synthetics, then that doesn't obviously go for you. But I would like to think that 99.9% of apes obviously understands what's going on. And so you would understand there are billions of synthetics that are out there. And so even if Adam Aron was to issue out 550 million more shares and give them all away to a short seller, to these short sellers, that will still not cover the synthetic positions that they have caused. We talked about this. When you take a look at, in terms of City, we saw that they had over 400 million synthetic shares. When we take a look at FTX, in terms of the tokenization, they had over 400 million synthetic shares. You can take out multiple examples out, all these other short sellers out there. The existence of synthetic shares are in the billions. So yes, 550 million could allow some short sellers to cover, but does that get rid of all the synthetics that has ever been created? Of course not. And so this is what we said with how it does not help these short sellers, but in terms of when you look at it, whether it's the micro or the macro, so whether it's the short term or the long term, these short sellers are getting beaten by AMC. We have to understand, and right now we're going to be seeing a lot of suppression, and it's because AMC isn't moving like it should, because of the fact 61% of all trades are happening in the dark pools. That's not normal, that's straight up shady. And so right now we are still seeing AMC, up. We see it up 3.17%. Now we've already known that the price action we see here is nowhere near the price action we should actually be seeing. But especially in times like this, we're going to be seeing more attacks on AMC. And so when we do see AMC having volatility, especially when it's declining in price, make sure to look at the FTDs, make sure to look at the dark pool, because it's one thing AMC investors selling their shares, but it's a completely different thing if the shorts are hiding away the buy volume and are synthetically creating shares and suppressing AMC. Now, what we're taking a look is at how brokers are scared. You can see exactly what I was expecting on GME with these GME warrants. Some brokers might have the warrants under different QSIP, claiming it is the same amount, but it's not. It's a synthetic instrument which tracks and mimics the actual GME warrant where we are seeing this. You can see, why do the GME warrants have different names? Are the QSIP the same? So we've already known that these warrants were going to create problems. We've already known this. And what we are is seeing the very problems that these warrants are, of course, creating. And so what we could be looking at are the synthetic warrants. Now, we've already talked about what problem these GME shares and the warrant situation would have caused. It's because of the fact that if brokers who couldn't locate the amount of shares that they're giving out. So if they're giving out, over 500 million shares or whatever it is, and they can't actually match it to their books because they were giving out synthetics, they will still need to find the warrants for the amount of shares that they've given out. Now, the problem is that if it doesn't match up to their books, they will need to find these warrants that don't exist. And in this case, creating the synthetic warrants. And it's already causing problems because not only are we seeing different QSIPs, but if you see here, breaking, GameStop shareholders report brokers are liquidating their GME warrants without permissions. And so we're seeing how brokers are out of shares/warrants. Now, comment down below if you're facing this problem. But I have already seen multiple people talking about how their warrants have been liquidated. Now, once again, comment down below if you're facing this problem. But this is what we talked about. If brokers can't find the shares, or if brokers can't match it up, and they don't have the warrants to do so, that's what they're going to do. They're going to pretend they've given out these warrants and then immediately liquidate these warrants and just give them the equivalent of the cash, because in that way you don't ever have to prove whether or not you can match the books. You don't have to prove whether or not you actually have the amount of warrants, because you've already given them the cash. And that's exactly what we've said with how we're causing problems for the short sellers. Now, as always, this is financial advice, so do take what I say, so much, do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.